وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم إلى نور الفهم وأكرمنا بمعرفة العلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم تقبل منا ما مضى من رمضان وأعنا على ما بقي منه يا رب العالمين. اللهم أعنا على إتمام عدة رمضان بإحسان واجعلنا ممن يوافق ليلة القدر بذنب مغفور وسعي مشكور وتجارة رابحة لن تبور. اللهم لا تحرمنا من خيرات ما عندك بسوء ما عندنا. اللهم تقبل منا العمل القليل وتجاوز عن الزلل الكثير. يا ربنا جئناك معترفين، جئناك تائبين متذللين لك خاضعين لك منيبين، فافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا من خزائن رحمتك واجعلنا من أوليائك وأصفيائك وأحبابك. اقضي حوائجنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اقضي حوائجنا، اللهم اقضي حوائجنا أجمعين. اللهم اقضي حاجتنا في حال أمة حبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم اجعل هذا الرمضان رمضان فتح ونصر وتمكين. اللهم حقق خلاصنا في هذا الشهر من كل سوء يا رب العالمين. اللهم حقق خلاص أمة حبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم مما نزل بها من البلاء العظيم. اللهم يا ربنا ول أمورنا خيارنا ولا تولي أمورنا شرارنا ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك ولا يرحمنا. اللهم أذن لشريعتك أن تسود في الأرض يا رب العالمين. اللهم أبرم لأمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إبرام رشد يعز فيه أهل طاعتك ويحكم فيه بشريعتك يا رب العالمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين واجعل الدائرة على الظالمين. أفسد رأيهم، فرق جمعهم، واجعل بأسهم بينهم شديدا، وارنا فيهم عجائب قدرتك يا قوي يا عزيز. أنت حسبنا نعم المولى ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. آخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. أما بعد, few things to note. Inshallah, actually I'll leave the announcements to the very end, but I'll note one thing. The topic for tonight is modesty in Islam, hayat. This was actually supposed to be spoken about yesterday, but instead I spoke about honesty and trustworthiness. I flipped the schedule, so I'm speaking about hayat today instead of yesterday. Now, hayat, modesty in Islam, is one of those foundational characters. If you guys remember what I told you, the 4 characteristics Imam Ghazali noted as being أمهات الأخلاق والفضائل وأمهات الأخلاق وأصولها أربعة. He says الحكمة والشجاعة والعفة والعدل. He mentions wisdom, and he mentions courage, and he mentions chastity, and he mentions justice. Now, honesty and trustworthiness falls under shaja'a, it falls under courage. It takes a lot of courage to be a person of trustworthiness. And, you know, the story that they often note is the story of Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik and the 3 stragglers in the Battle of Tabuk. It's mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah. So it requires courage to be trustworthy. It requires courage to be honest, to be loyal to our promises. And the one that we'll speak about today, hayat, modesty, relates to iffa, relates to chastity. Hayat is this very lofty concept in Islam. It's not relating to a certain appearance. It's not a characteristic that's exclusive to a gender. It's not a female thing, by the way. It's a very common misunderstanding. Hayat is for women. No, hayat is for believers, mu'mineen. And it's actually this very, virtuous thing that extends way beyond the confines of interacting with human beings. Now we have this thing that we call shyness, and then we have something else called hayat, or having a sense of shame or modesty. They're 2 very different things, but there is a common link between them linguistically, but the motive behind both is very different. So what do they define hayat as? They say it is تغير وانكسار يعتري القلب عند فعل ما يعاب به. They say hayat is a sense of brokenness that one feels at heart when committing something that is shameful, something that is worthy of criticism. Now, we have hayat as believers, modesty, from a very lofty aspiration, and that is from my recognition that I'm a abd of Allah Azza wa Jal, and I seek His rida, and I'm trying to do that which brings me closest to Him. Shyness, on the other hand, is a character flaw, especially when it exceeds its bounds. Shyness just has the brokenness and the broken part of it, but it's not inspired by virtue. So someone who's shy will not speak up when something's wrong is happening, and that's not virtuous. Someone who's excessively shy will not stand up for justice, will not speak truth to power, will not have the capacity to give nasiha and advice. Someone who's too shy may even be too embarrassed to show their Islam. You know, when they're outside in the public, don't call me Muhammad, call me Mo. And there's this very strange thing with some Muslims who work in non-Muslim workspaces, which is it's not there. Jazakallah khair. There's this very strange thing for some Muslims who work in non-Muslims workspaces. You want to hear how strange it is? Some people who work, they don't want you, when you go to the workspace, they don't want to hear salam. Don't tell them assalamu alaikum. And if you do say assalamu alaikum, they will say hi. They will not say wa alaikum assalam. Why? Because they are shy. Shy of anything that identifies them as being Muslim. Such a shameful thing to have indeed. But that's not hayat. Hayat is something so beautiful. And now the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith describes to us that modesty is the characteristic of Islam. Modesty is what makes me guard the boundaries of Allah Azza wa Jal. إِنَّ لِكُلِّ دِينٍ خُلُقًا وَخُلُقُ الْإِسْلَامِ الْحَيَاء. Prophet ﷺ says there's a defining feature for every religion, and the defining feature of Islam is hayat. Just don't pray right there, brother, please, just because you're right in front of the camera. And in fact, brothers, can you move up just so no one, jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum. So that's one hadith. There's another hadith that the Prophet ﷺ tells us, إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسُ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى. This is a very famous hadith. Everyone needs to know this. This is the asas and the foundation of whoever you choose to associate with in your life. The Prophet ﷺ says, it is of the first teachings of prophethood, إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسُ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى. If you are someone who has no shame, do as you may. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means nothing will stop you. You know, if you're someone who has no shame, no sense of modesty, you will be willing to violate and breach every boundary. And there are signs, there's telltale signs of someone who doesn't have any sense of shame. You know, for example, what is an example? Someone who has the capacity to speak very aggressively about their mother or father, defame them, put them down with someone in the public eye, this is someone, red flag. Because someone who doesn't have goodness for mother or father, you know, and again, mother or father, does that mean they're perfect? They're not perfect. However, my sense of hayat stops me from uttering with my tongue something so shameful about my mother or father. No, my sense of, so if someone has the capacity to violate the sanctity of a parent, is someone you should be very careful of associating with, because it is only a matter of time until you're on their hit list. This is not someone you want to marry your daughter. This is not someone who you want to consider for marriage as a guy. If it's a girl, don't. This is a telltale sign of no hayat. One of the signs of no hayat is the individual publicly doing sin and even boasting about it. It's a sign that hayat is gone from the heart. It's a very scary state for the qalb to be in. Now look at what the Prophet ﷺ tells us. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Istahyu min Allahi haqq al-hayat." Have full, true modesty from Allah Azza wa Jal. The Prophet ﷺ, "Ya Rasulullah, inna nastahi walhamdulillah." We have hayat. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Laysa dhak. ولكن الاستحياء من الله حق الحياء أن تحفظ الرأس وما وعى." You know, subhanAllah, even hayat, modesty, doesn't have to do anything with interacting with people sometimes. It is in my choice of what I want to listen to, what I allow my eyes to look at, right? That's hayat. When I am in the complete isolation and alone by myself. He said, أن تحفظ الرأس وما وعى والبطن وما حوى. And what you allow your body to consume.
In this case, someone who has true haya will be too shameful in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, too ashamed in front of Allah Azza wa Jal to do something that's displeasing to Him. No. Cigarettes are haram. I don't want that. I'm not going to just stop it for Ramadan. I'm going to stop it because I know it's displeasing to Allah Azza wa Jal. Consuming riba is haram. I'm not going to do it. Even if it's going to get me ahead in my life, I don't want it. Because I'm too ashamed before Allah to use the ability and power He gave me to disobey Him. And then he goes on to say, وَالْبَطْنَ وَمَا حَوَى وَالْتَذْكُرِ الْمَوْتَ وَالْبِلَى. True haya is to know that one day I'm going to have to stand before my Khaliq and I'm going to have to answer for the things that I did. Right? The haya is this very beautiful virtue. It takes the individual to the highest levels of ihsan. Now look, this attribute of haya is also described for Allah. The hadith, the Prophet ﷺ tells us, إِنَّ رَبَّكُمْ حَيِّيٌّ كَرِيمٌ يَسْتَحِي إِذَا رَفَعَ الْعَبْدُ يَدَيْهِ إِلَيْهِ أَنْ يَرُدَّهُمَا صِفْرًا خَائِبَتَيْنِ. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, Allah has haya, and He is generous. And He has haya to turn away the hands of a servant raised to Him with zero in return. The scholars, they explain, what does it mean for Allah to have haya? It means that He's generous. They say, وَأَمَّا حَيَاءُ الرَّبِّ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى مِنْ عَبْدِهِ فنوع آخر لا تدركه ولا تكيفه العقول فإنه حياء كرم وبر وجود فإنه كريم يستحي من عبده إذا رفع إليه يديه أن يردهما صفرا. It's His generosity. That's what His haya and modesty is. His servants are turning to Him sincerely, Ya Rabb, forgive us. That's why if you're able to make a sincere dua in this Ramadan, then have certainty and yaqeen that Allah Azza wa Jal won't reject it, because Allah is Hayyun Kareem. If I'm sincere in my tawbah, Ya Rabb, tub alay, Ya Rabb ighfir li, oh Allah, forgive me, guide me, then guess what? Allah won't turn His servants away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to hear the dua of His servants. This is from His haya, tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now haya, again, like I said, it's not a feminine characteristic. It's not something that's relating to interactions with human beings. However, it is something that is essential for iman to be in the heart. Imam al-Qayyim, he says beautiful words. He says, من عقوبات المعاصي ذهاب الحياء الذي هو مادة حياة القلب وهو أصل كل خير وذهابه ذهاب الخير أجمعه فقد جاء في الحديث الصحيح الحياء خير كله. Prophet ﷺ tells us haya is all good. One time there was this Ansari advising his brother not to have too much haya. So the Prophet ﷺ said, دَعْهُ فَإِنَّ الْحَيَاءَ لَا يَأْتِي إِلَّا بِخَيْرٍ. Having a sense of shame only brings goodness. It is in our world, in our day and age, having a sense of shame, having regrets, that's something that characterizes you as a weak person. But by us, no. We're empowered by this beautiful virtue of haya. He says in these words, Imam al-Qayyim, he says, one of the consequences of sins is that haya goes from the heart. Modesty goes from the heart. And that is the source of life for iman in the heart. And it is the backbone of all virtue. And when it goes, all goodness goes. That's how powerful haya is. May I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us a people of modesty and shame. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give our hearts life with this beautiful characteristic and all of the other beautiful virtues we're reflecting on in this month. Allahumma ameen. There's a few things I need to announce to you before we stand for our Isha. First thing, we polled you guys yesterday, and transparency, right? We love shura. We love shura. We're an ummah that loves shura more than democracy. Shura's better, right? 220 voted for 9. 200 voted for 8:30. So going with shura, it was so close. It was so close. You see, it's almost 50-50. So either 20 people chose not to do the survey, or so the point is, Allah inna ala the extra half hour. Yalla, inshallah khair. So we're going to keep it at 9 p.m. just to follow whatever the majority wanted, even though it was so close. And inshallah khair. So that's one. The second thing is we have a lot of programs coming up. As I did last week, I want to remind you guys of the opportunities for khair this week. We have this Friday another 2 organizations that are visiting us. For the first khutbah, it is United Hands Relief, UHR, and they're going to be fundraising for Gaza. So if you didn't get an opportunity to support Gaza last week, you have another one to support it this week. And then we have Syrian Forum, which is coming in the second khutbah. and it's your only official fundraiser date to support our brothers and sisters in Syria. What do? Well, they do a lot of things. You're going to hear about it in the khutbah. Among what they're going to be raising for is for the orphans of Syria. So if you didn't get a chance to support orphans last week, you have the orphans of Syria. And I'm going to share with you guys the statistics. The brother actually shared it with me from the organization. And, very, very important stuff. We can't forget that Syria was under such oppression for a half a century. And it had to go through a grueling revolution for over a decade. Or I don't know how much it was, 14 years, 15 years, 15 years. The Syrian crisis, all right? 90% of the population lives below the poverty line. 90%, Ya Allah. 13.7 million refugees are desperately trying to return home after years of displacement. Get this number, guys. 1.5 million orphans in all of Syria. This is a big responsibility on us as an ummah. And then get this one, 2.4 million children aren't able to attend school because 50% of the schools in Syria have been bombed and destroyed from years of fighting. Inshallah, we want to contribute towards rebuilding Syria. We're going to talk more about this in the khutbah. Come ready this Friday to donate to both virtuous causes. Please. Jazakumullah khair. This is an opportunity for us, by the way. It's not an opportunity for them. It's an opportunity for us. Because Allah Azza wa Jal is going to ask us. You had opportunities to give and you had money. Did you give? Why didn't you? All right, so that's the second announcement, and we're going to stand for Salah. But we have a bunch of programs that are coming up too. I want to note this. First off, alhamdulillah, with our Tahajjud program, we're coming upon our first Khatma. The dua of Khatam is going to be on Saturday in the i'tikaf here, inshaAllah ta'ala, for anyone who would like to join. And there's going to be a second Khatma, inshaAllah ta'ala. Hopefully the dua for it will be on the night of the 27th, and that's our intention, inshaAllah. So the first Khatma, the dua is going to be this Saturday night before Fajr, in the time of Tahajjud, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We have two i'tikafs, Friday and Saturday. We're doing something different with our midnight talks. Where our midnight talk on Friday is going to be in Patterson, inshallah. We're going to try doing it there to see if it could accommodate more people and be easier for the traffic flow. So please join us there, myself and Ustad Zaid. It's going to be about getting to know Allah. How can I get to know Allah, and what's beautiful about getting to know Allah Azza wa Jal? These are important because we have many people who come who've never been inside a masjid before or who are very far away from masajid. So please, if you know anyone who needs to be reintroduced to practicing Islam, tell them about these midnight talks. So Friday over there in Patterson, and Saturday is going to be back here in Clifton. Inshallah, it's going to be about getting to know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept and give tawfiq. Inshallah, we're going to stand for Isha right now. Jazakumullah khair.